Good day, business owners, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and corporations. Welcome to the Black Business Network. My name is Coach Taisha McCoy, and I am your business moderator for this session of the Black Business Network. The Black Business Network is a 24-hour business network showcasing Black businesses, business owners, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders worldwide. We have speakers in North Carolina, We have speakers in North Carolina, London, Singapore, Africa, Japan, and cities all over the United States. The Black Business Network is a global community sharing its business knowledge to empower, inspire, and educate businesses about business. We would like to have a special conversation with Mr. Ed Fairley in reference to his book. And remember, genius is common, and I will see you on the other side.
Good morning. Welcome back.
Greetings and good morning. Welcome back. Excellent. It's so good to have you back with us because we want to just have a special conversation with you, asking some more questions in reference to your book. And then, of course, just some relationship building that I'm sure most would appreciate if they're seeking relationships in one currently, or if they just come out of one and they're just not sure what next steps to take.
Oh, that's
So
good.
let's dive in.
Please
Absolutely. So I
do
know
it.
we left off on the question in reference to the hearts of men concerning relationship. You're saying that you have men that are willing to talk with you and speak with you in reference to relationships and what they're doing. And you're saying once you get in the group, men are no longer having that conversation, but women are. How are you able at this day and time to change the thought process of the man in relationship today, or the man seeking relationship, or the man who has come out of relationship?
Well, my my approach for one is not to change their thought process. My approach is to be an example that suggests that causes someone to ask, which means they're receptive to change, and then I get to share. So it's more so, oh, by the way, like no one, I don't go around telling people that I'm a relationship coach or counselor. For one, that's weird. Like I don't even know when would you just randomly say that. I have people that find out that I've written a book, I've invented a self-counseling board game, and they get mad at me. How could you not say that? Like I'm like, well, when in the conversation was that supposed to happen? Like when do you just randomly say you did those things if we're just out and about having casual conversation or at a function or what have you. So I say all that to say it's more of a, oh, by the way, this is what I do because of a question that was asked of me. So if I am maneuvering or moving in a manner that attracts the fruit that I have to you as a male, it will just naturally cause you to ask me questions about what or whomever. On top of the fact that I don't know what it is about me, but I have a face that not just male, but male and female for some reason just tell me anything. Like they feel like, hey, you know what? I don't know why I'm telling you this. And then they just go and they share. And because I'm just not a judgmental person, and half the time they think that they're going to share something that is going to make me question them or make them look bad. And when they see that it doesn't move me at all, then they're really curious as to how in the world did you not, indirectly is what they're saying, how did you not judge me when I just shared that? How in the world did you not conclude that I'm a terrible person when I shared that information with you? And when that happens, that allows for me to freely speak. And then I'm more transparent. Love goes first. So I'll share the things that I'm like, you think that's bad? I've done this. I've said this. You think that's bad? And when they feel comfortable enough to listen, but also to know that I've come from a space that's probably darker than yours and gotten myself out of it, they're welcoming the journey of how do I get out of that dark space. So that's how I do it.
Understood. So moving forward, do you find that in this day and time, men who are divorced are seeking relationship or are able to hop back into relationships quicker and faster than women? And why?
So I'll say yes and no. Everyone, I don't care who you are, wants to be loved and desired. Everyone. So now people are hurt and they're damaged by other people. And because of that, they're not so interested in jumping back in a vulnerable position to where they can be hurt and damaged by more people. So that's why it's a yes and it's a no. But there's also the people that are damaged and don't know that they're damaged. So they immediately get back into a relationship so that they can feel whole or complete, which only leads them back to being hurt again because their expectation is the external thing is supposed to make my internal happy. And that's just not realistic, nor is it possible when you haven't even figured out how to make yourself happy or feel love.
Understood. I mean, I know this is helping a tremendous amount of people out here today. I know that moving forward, when there is a breakdown in the marriage, what do you feel is the best course of communication to get people back on track? Because a lot of times people are like, well, I got to walk on eggshells. I can't, talk with them in this manner because I feel I'm going to hurt their feelings. Or I've seen even people who say, I'm not ready to have that conversation with them because they're afraid. What do you say to that?
I had to write that down so I don't forget to address. That is the most common one. I don't
Yes.
want to hurt their feelings. So this is really what they're saying. I don't want to disturb the peace in my household, is what they're
Mm.
really saying by saying I can't have that conversation. So, oh, this is painful. But the reality is, if you're keeping the peace by not saying something, you're causing a war within. So there's still no peace.
I gotta write that down.
Second thing, a person that says that with no exceptions to the rule has a
Hmm.
low self-esteem. Now, I'm going to explain how that is because
But yes, please explain to
yeah,
the people.
yeah. To suggest that I'm going to keep your peace by not sharing what I feel or I want suggests that I don't love me enough for you to know how I feel. So just being in that predicament suggests that you don't love yourself. This sounds terrible coming from a person that's supposedly a love coach or a love counselor, but my wife's feelings are gonna be hurt way before my feelings are gonna be hurt. And that's because
Yes.
I'm going to share how I feel about a predicament. Now, let's analyze this. And this is really what's happening and what's going to happen and what's happening in people's households when this stuff like this happens. You don't
Yes.
share, right? You don't share. It could be in the bedroom, which is typically in the bedroom. You don't share. I don't want to hurt his feelings. I don't want to hurt her feelings. She doesn't do this. He doesn't do that, or what have you. I don't want to hurt her feelings. So you don't say anything to prevent them, but you continue to have that experience. Now, my question to you is, if you don't share, is it their fault that you keep having that experience? Can they correct the wrong that they don't know is wrong? How in the world can it be fixed if you never bring it up? And how do you know if you're really the person that is for you, if you don't bring it. And see, that's what the real issue is. Because, and that goes back to self esteem, because what's really happening is, man, if I say this to him or her, she might leave me. He or she might leave me. This is what I want. This is my preference. Or he or she might think I'm too freaky, or whatever the thought process of psyche, which again goes back to you not loving yourself. You can't love yourself enough to say that this is what I want and this is what I would like. So, and it goes back to, I'm passionate about this, the preventative measures, which is having you love yourself first before you get into a relationship, because you won't deal with this if you select properly, because you started with a loving place, or from a loving place of being whole by yourself. And oftentimes we seek completion. We seek for someone to give me what I lack. So now I feel whole. So now this is an exchange whereby I need him or her. Now, my wife knows, and I'm intentional about her being at a place to where I do not need that woman. I want my wife. I have chosen someone who I love, the being that she is. I love her, and I'm not trying to change her, and I don't need anything that she has. But when she provides is very, very beneficial. I absolutely enjoy it, but I do not need her. I know how to cook. I know how to clean. I know how to keep my house in order. I know how to raise my children. I can help them with homework. I can wash clothes. I can do dishes. I can do all of those things that she can do. My job as a spouse and as a father is to make my wife as independent of me as possible. Why? Because I love her. And what do I mean by that? Because if I do not provide her with the ability to do the things that I can do, when I die, she's immediately going to try to find my replacement, because she needs that void that I left her with. So now she's going and she's desperately looking for a need because I did not equip her to not need. But I love myself
Understand.
to know that I can equip you with who I am, because I feel that you're going to want me and stay. But what we do have is people, again, manipulation, that they don't want you to know, because they think that once you are able to make your own money, able to cook for yourself, able to clean for yourself, able to do all of this stuff around the house, you might not need me. And you know what? If you don't need me, you're gonna leave me. So now the question is, are you needed or you wanted? And which one would you prefer?
Segue in reference to what you just said. So I have found that there are so many men out here who claim, I want to feel needed. When I hear this statement, or I gather the concept of their need, I say, well, the needs could be very different in every relationship. A woman needing you not just to change her tire or check her oil, she may need you to be honest. She may need you to be loyal. She may need you to be communicative. She may need you to be aware of her feelings and her emotions. So, why does the need, like when a man says, I want to feel needed, where is that really coming from? What part of the brain, heart, mind, body is the need really coming from? At least the majority of men, should I say.
All right, so a couple things I need to discuss. There's nothing that you said that's not a woman thing. I understand that you're receiving it from men, but it's not gender specific at all.
Well, they might
Everything,
not be
no, no,
receiving it.
no, I get it. I get it. But again, so this is not a man's concept. It's not a woman's concept, because I know women that are, again, I intentionally put topics like cooking and things that supposedly are gender specific. I intentionally put them in the conversation to let you understand that this has nothing to do. Again, I can cook. Matter of fact, I'm the cook of my house. My wife is not. If my wife is cooking, there's only 5 meals that I know it's going to be one out of. But I am the cook in my house, and they're not big meals or what have you. So these gender roles, these things that we have in our mind, we can debunk them. But to answer your question, anyone that feels needed is someone that lacks affirmation of themselves. They lack value. That's the only reason why you would feel needed. So you try to put yourself in predicaments. We do the same thing with jobs. We do all of this stuff to say, hey, look at me. I'm important because we don't have self-validation. We don't know for ourselves. So we need something external to suggest that I'm valuable because you don't feel valuable. That's all it is. Anyone that suggests I want to feel needed, it just means that they don't feel valuable. It's literally a cry for help that they need to work on giving themselves. But again, we
Mm,
get so caught up in I say it like this. When you when you look through the eyes of trauma, everything seems traumatic. Everything. Everything. So even when you are being given love or forgiveness, you can't receive it because you don't think that that's possible for you. So you could literally be in a loving situation and not receive it because of how you depict or view yourself, or depict or view what love is. And what I mean by that is there's so many women and even men that have been in abusive relationships their entire lives to where they have concluded that, oh, this is what love is. So they fight for that picture in their respective relationship when that's not what love is.
absolutely. Absolutely. When it comes to healthy relationships, because there are so many people who, can put their own spin on it. Because a lot of people were saying, well, I don't want to have the relationship that my grandparents had, or that my mom and dad had, or my mom and her significant. I want us to create our own idea of marriage and what we want and what we need and how it should be. But yet, one of those spouses or one of those individuals is like, well, no, that's what I grew up with. This is all I know. I only know how my grandmother treated granddad. I only know how mom treated dad. How do I now come into a new relationship with someone who has a new idea of what marriage should look like?
A couple things. The answer to that is twofold. I absolutely love that question. Oh my God. All right. So but I have to address the two things when it comes to that. Actually, matter of fact, I'm gonna first start with that's what my premarital counseling looks like. So save you if you're listening right now, I'm gonna give you premarital counseling in less than 3 minutes. It's the simplest thing in the world. But again, once you know it, you can't unknow it, and you're stuck with this truth. This is how my premarital counseling works. I have the two people there. They suggest that they want to be married. I say, hey, write down on a piece of paper or several pieces of paper what you think is going to happen after he or she says I do. When y'all go to the actual altar, I want you to write out, draw it out, what it is that you think is going to happen. What's your relationship going to look like after you two say I do? They write it out. All right, they're going in, they're writing everything down. Now, this is what happens after that. I either say switch papers or I say read them out loud. And this is what happened. And I promise this aligns with what you just shared. Typically, you have one person who has been in a relationship for the season that they were in. It could be a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And they say, you know what? We've had this relationship. I love what's going on, and I could do this for the rest of my life. I want to get married to this person right here, him or her. And then you have the other person who you just talked about. They have a picture of what marriage is. That is not what these two people have been experiencing for the last several years, last months, last whatever. That's not what they've been experiencing. But because they have defined marriage as this picture, they think that after they say I do, that this is what's going to now come to fruition. So when they say I do, as opposed to them saying I do want to do this for the rest of my life, they're saying, I do want you to now be home by 9, as opposed to you coming in at any time of the night. I do want you to spend time with the children. I do want you to stop talking to me like that. I do want you to stop hitting me. I do want this thing to change. So now these two people have evidence that this person actually loves you because they want you to remain you, or this person wants you to not be you, which means they don't love you. Now we have a dilemma because now you are giving the invitations. Now you have talked to all these people. Now the question is, do you love yourself enough to not move forward? Because now you have evidence that this person doesn't love you. They love the idea of who you could become. You're not that person, but you told everybody, and you're trying to save face. You want to save face. You don't want to tell everybody that it didn't work out because you don't love yourself enough to be freed of people.
Right.
So now I want to transition to the thought process of I don't want to be like my mom or dad, or I don't. But I hear a lot. I don't want to end up like my father. I don't want to end up like my mother. Now, I want you to do this with me real quick. Just close your eyes for a second. All right. Now, don't think of a cat. Don't think of an elephant. Do not think of your mom. Now, you can open your eyes. Now, when I told you not to think of those things, did you think of those things?
Yeah, because that comes in first
Okay.
before you
All right.
try to transition to something
what
else.
what 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 we've done is we've proven that as beings we can't not do. We are creative beings. We can only create. So if you say I don't want to be like my father, all you see is be like my father. You can't unsee what you don't want to be. So if you're consistently saying I don't want to be like my mom, I don't want to be like my father, the only thing that your brain can do is create be like this that I see. So what you need to do is define what you want to be like or how you want to be and say I want to be like this, and then your mind will allow for you to create or become that thing. But the thing that you say I don't want to be, I don't want to think about a cat, you're going to think about a cat. I don't want to be like my father, you're going to think about your father, and ultimately guess what you're going to become? Your father. So you need to put in front of you or conceptualize what you want to be like, as opposed to saying what you don't want to be so that you can become the opposite of what you're trying not to be. Does that make sense?
Total.
There we go.
Total. That is good stuff. I mean, I'm telling you, you're clearing up some minds today.
I, I hope
You're
so.
clearing up some minds today. I mean, because I'm even taking notes. So yes, this is good stuff. Because like I was telling you earlier before, because I have your book, and in reading your book and knowing that there are things that are there to, it's almost like giving you the ABCs of relationship, and what you
Mm,
should know about love and how love should actually structure your life and the relationship within. So it was good stuff to me, and then having the
thank
opportunity
you.
for you to come and speak at the High Hills Low Self-Esteem conference was even more amazing, because then
Oh,
people
thank
got to hear it directly, from you. And giving it directly from you, from reading it in a book, is a completely different story to
you.
tell.
Most certainly. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I appreciate, you being able to really, just dive in and just have people look from the balcony,
Uh,
from a different perspective concerning relationship. And they can actually look down there and find, okay, what am I missing? What do I need to do differently? What do I need to change about myself, versus the person in front of me? There are so many people who are wrestling with those innuendos in their mind. What do you have to say to some of the podcasts and those men who are speaking out in reference to relationship and what it should look like and what it should be here on social media? Because we're having so many people have a broad perspective now in reference to what relationships should be, look like, how you should treat your man, how you should treat your lady. what is your take on the social media parodies?
Well, as far as what a relationship should look like, it should look like a place that you're allowed to just be you. It's so, oh my gosh, it's so crazy to hear people who confide in me. Like I shared, I have this, it's a face that I have that allows people to just share anything with me. And I never, I don't have a judgmental bone in my body, which
Right.
actually it suggests where I'm headed with this. But at the same token, I had people share with me, and then and I'm like, well, you should tell your spouse that. And I'm like, well, I could never tell my husband that, or I could never tell my wife that. And I'm like, first of all, in my mind, you can tell me that. Second of all,
You can't tell.
you can't tell your spouse that. But what that also suggests is their spouse did not create an environment that allows for them to be comfortable with being themselves. So that's one thing. But the second thing is we have people that are in relationships with their spouse, but they have friends. They're not the same. Now, what do I
Mhm.
mean by that? A friend is someone you can tell anything to. You can tell them they're not going to judge you. They're going to hear you out. They're a great sounding board. And we have people that have a spouse that's not their friend. So they're giving the true intimacy because everyone has a friend, even if it's
Mhm.
to themselves or whatever. They know themselves. They're not judging themselves. And they might, well, they are judging themselves if they're not sharing, but they keep it to themselves. They have someone to share the secrets about themselves with, be it themselves or a friend, which means that they're really giving their true intimacy to
Yes.
someone else. And that's what a relationship or a marriage should look like. You should be in a relationship or a marriage with your best friend. My wife is my best friend. I could literally see I'll be in meetings and things of that nature, and people are delaying the meeting or the gathering so that they don't have to go home. I'm like, that's not my problem. You need to wrap this up. I'm ready to go home. Everything about my house is is peace. It's love. It's from my children to my wife. I love being here. When we had the pandemic, it was hard for me to go back to what was normal. My whole family, we could not stand it. Down to my children, we loved being stuck in the house because our situation is one of enjoying ourselves. I'm stuck with my best friend every day, all day. Oh man, I got to get out of this. What? No, that's
This
not
is
the
good.
setup. And if you
This
have a
is good.
friend, you wouldn't have the need to, I got to get away from him or her.
Right.
Because,
Well, I have one last question for you
oh,
because I know time is getting ahead of us.
sorry.
But what if a safe space is created and that person is just not willing to share? Because I have seen that
Then the
where
safe
that
space is not
person,
created. It's not
yeah,
created.
because they're like, I'm able to share everything with her, but she's not able to share everything with me.
That goes
Why?
back to you, your response. I'm gonna do it like this.
Mhm.
There's times because I don't know if I don't know if I'm wired to be like a counselor or what have you, but if my children tell me something, they told me something. There's been times where things came up and my wife was like, "You knew that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I actually did know that. She did tell me. My daughter told me. Why didn't you tell me?" Like, that's fair. That's a fair question. But before you get upset with me for withholding that information from you, what I actually needed you to do is ask yourself, what did you do to make her not want to share that with you? That's not a me problem. That's a you problem. You responded to something that she shared with you at a specific moment that suggested that this that she just shared with me is not something that she could share with you. That's what a safe place looks like. So if a person is not sharing, I'm sorry. The mirror's on you. You
Mhm.
did something that told them that I can't tell my
I
wife
can't
that.
tell him. Mhm.
I can't tell my husband that. You did that. It's something that you got to work on. It's not something that they have to
So
work on.
how does one create a safe space without? Because I know some people feel like, well, I'm going to just reciprocate. I'm going to show them how. If I relay things to them that I'm transparent and honest and open about, maybe they'll do the same thing. So, how does one become someone who can be a safe space or a safe place to land?
All right, so the simple answer is to become a loving being. Because I hope you get to listen back to what you just said. Uh, what you just shared is suggestive of manipulation. Listen to what you said.
Mhm.
You said,
Mhm.
I have created an environment. I share everything with him or her. So I would think that he would share everything
Interesting.
with me. So you suggested subconsciously that, well, I since I do it, I should be able to get this in return. Is that love? No, ma'am, that is not. That is manipulation. And thus the actual frustration when they do not reciprocate what it is that you asked. Now, if you are a being that, or you work on becoming a being that's not judgmental, they're going to say something. It might slip up or whatever, where you're not going to react and try to tell them what they should have done or how they should have seen it or whatever. You're just going to be a sounding board and you're going to listen and you're not going to have faces and you're not going to be nodding your head. No, you're just
Mhm.
going to hear them out. And
Yes.
then you might start asking them. That's why I don't like to give suggestive actions, because again, that's acting, that's not being. When you become these things, like we, or like I read the 5 sentences, you just start doing those things because that's what love does. That's the fruit of love. But if I have to tell you what to do, that's me telling you how to parrot my actions, but the essence of you is still not going to correlate to the actual situation. So if you become or work on being a loving being, you will respond accordingly. Now, there's things that my children have shared, my son, my daughter, and because I love them and I want them to be able to share with me, my insides might be like, "Oh my gosh." But they will never know it. I might leave the conversation, go yell in the
Yeah.
pillow or whatever, but they'll never know it because I can't chance losing the confidence in them being able to come to me. I don't want my children or my wife to have to go confide in someone else to get information. So I cannot
Okay.
chance that. I have to be mindful of their feelings, of them literally sharing their heart with me. So I have to give them that space so that they're willing to share it again and again and again so that we can navigate through this together. But the worst thing that can
Absolutely.
happen is you go somewhere else to get that information. Because I'm going to tell you from a loving place, they might manipulate you to do something that you have no business doing.
This has been amazing. You have definitely given some beautiful insight concerning love, life, and relationships. And we thank you for your expertise once again,
Thank you.
Mr. Fairley. We so appreciate you. And just
You.
remember that genius is common, and I will see you on the other side. You take care.